Welcome to Monday here on the Morning Pitt, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. I'm Chris Peak from Panther-Lair.com, still from Panther-Lair.com. You know, we have a lot to talk about from this weekend. There's a lot that happened this weekend. There's site stuff, there's recruiting stuff, there's basketball stuff, and all of those things. But obviously the place we have to start is with the tragic news out of Saturday night. The Pitt freshman cornerback Mason Alexander passed away after being involved in a car accident in his hometown of Indianapolis. Alexander enrolled at Pitt in January. He had been on campus for the last 2 months. We actually had a chance to interview him last week. You can see that video here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. It's part of, if you scroll back through the last week or so of videos, it was last Wednesday. It was the latest of these sort of newcomer press conferences that we've done with transfers and freshmen. It was linebackers and defensive backs last week, and Mason Alexander was a 4-star cornerback prospect coming out of high school. A young man with certainly a very promising future in football, but it's just a promising future as a young man. And truly sad to see someone that young pass away. I mean, it's sad when anyone dies, of course. But an 18-year-old, the cliche of his whole life in front of him, and that was the case for Mason Alexander. And so, we only know him a little bit, certainly talked to him throughout the recruiting process. Like I say, sort of talked to him in person for the first time last week. Always very engaging, smart, interesting young man. I mean, we talked to about 7 guys last week. Some of them transfers coming in from other schools who were like seniors or sophomores. They've been in college for a few years. Some of them high school guys. And Mason Alexander was by far the most engaging guy we talked to last week. Not that makes any difference. A life lost is a life lost. And it's tragic. And that's really the best word we can use for it. So obviously collectively here at Panther-Lair.com and whatever we do here, our collective hearts go out to Mason Alexander's family, certainly the family he was building at the University of Pittsburgh, and anyone around him or anyone who knew him. It's sad stuff, not the news that we expected to see yesterday morning, when we should be talking about things like football recruiting or basketball or websites moving to new websites. But that news kind of put a damper on a lot of it. So whatever it is that you offer in condolences, we offer now to Mason Alexander, to his family, to his friends, those close to him, here on the Morning Pit on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Feels kind of stupid to play that music at this point. And I mean, it feels a little bit silly to talk about other things. Obviously, we're going to talk about other things. We'll talk about Pitt's loss at Louisville on Saturday. We'll talk about the fact that Pitt got a commitment from a 2027 wide receiver recruit out of the state of Florida on Saturday. We'll talk about, obviously, the news that we had ourselves, really Friday night at midnight. I mean, it was Saturday at midnight, but March 1st, Saturday, is we moved, and we'll certainly talk about that because there's a few things that we should clear up. But it all sort of pales in comparison. And it's funny, as we barreled through Saturday with our website moving and Pitt getting a commitment and a basketball game. I mean, there were so many Pitt things going on. And then this news comes along with Mason Alexander, and it just it just overshadows all of it. I mean, it puts all of it into perspective of, are you people really going to be going back and forth about whether or not a sophomore from South Florida sticks by his commitment for the next 3 years? I mean, it puts a little perspective on it. And so we're going to spend the next 20 minutes or 15 minutes or however long talking about the basketball game and talking about the site move and the commitment. But, there's a little bit of perspective on things. If you didn't see the news for us at Panther-Lair.com, we did make a move as of Saturday, March 1st. We're no longer a part of the Rivals Network, moved to the 24/7 Sports Network. And for those old heads who have been around a really long time, the 24/7 Sports Network is effectively the old Scout Network. You remember Scout, when there was rivals in Scout, and Scout kind of eventually got bought up by CBS Sports, got folded into this 24/7 Sports, and it all, or I don't even know the order of operations there, but it ended up the 24/7 Sports now exists as a network very much like the one that we just came from, made up of team sites covering recruiting, covering the teams, and and obviously with strong, vibrant message board communities. And that's what we joined over the weekend. And I know it came as a surprise to a lot of people that we did that. I actually put a video on YouTube out, right when it came out. We released a video just kind of talking about it, and I'll just elaborate a little bit here. I know it came as a surprise to a lot of people, but I mean, there's sort of contractual obligations. You can't really discuss things like this publicly until they happen. You're sort of obligated to, keep mum's the word, I guess you would say. And so not really many people knew that this was coming. Obviously, the site staff knew that it was coming. But otherwise, you kept a pretty tight lid on it up until the move was made. I know a week or two ago, 24/7 Sports announced that there was going to be a Pitt site coming to their network. Nobody really, at least nobody brought it to me and said, hey, this isn't going to be you, is it? And so Friday at noon, we put up a post saying this is our last day. We're going to be doing something new, and I think people put two and two together pretty quickly. And it probably wasn't too difficult to figure out that the day before the new 247 Pitt site was launching, we happened to announce that we would be changing venues. So it's still Panther-Lair.com. It's still Panther-Lair.com. But now when you type that website you type that URL into your web browser, it's going to take you to the 24/7 Sports Network. It's a different type of site, different format, different message board format, different look to the content. But what it all comes down to is we're still going to be doing the same things we've always done, providing you the best Pitt sports coverage you can find. Football, basketball, recruiting. We'll cover it all, and we've been covering it all. And what's great about this now, being a part of the 24/7 Sports Network, is that we are joining a team of really strong recruiting writers on the national and regional levels. And we've already had a lot of great content from guys like Brian Doan and Alan True just in the first couple days. That's going to keep rolling through. Tom Loy, who covers a lot of Notre Dame, but also overlaps with a lot of Pitt's targets as well. Bumping content out in addition to what Jim does and what I do and what our basketball team does. Like, I feel like we got a lot stronger with this move, and the people who are really going to benefit from that are you guys, the subscribers. So go check it out. Panther-Lair.com is the website. Go to that website below. You see it written right there. You always see it on these videos. Type it into your search bar and go to the website. And if you sign up now, you'll get 75% off your first year, the first year of your annual subscription. So 75% off. It's like $25 or $26 for a whole year of Pitt sports coverage and the message boards and all of that. And I'm not going to make a promo out of this every day on the Morning Pitt. And I know you guys hate when I do that, but I did want to address that because we haven't really gotten a chance to talk publicly about it too much thus far. But I think it's been great so far. Today's day 3 of the move, but I think the first weekend went really, really well. We had a great game thread on Saturday night during the Pitt Louisville game. We've had a lot of great recruiting conversations. Got the old Pirates thread fired up on the message, but I mean, like it's good. We're picking up where we left off. The community's there, the content is there, the coverage is there, and hopefully you'll come and hang out with us soon at Panther-Lair.com. Now, like I said, we had a very lively game thread on Saturday night as Pitt played at Louisville, number 19 Louisville. A game where Pitt, I think, was favored to lose by double digits. They ended up losing by 11. And, what can you say? I mean, when it came down to it, instead of having like a slow start to the game where, or a time early in the game where they, went into a deep hole, they actually put it off until like the final 7 minutes. Actually, it was 7:39 to go. I think Zach Austin made a three. They put Pitt in the lead, and they stretched that lead to 3 or 4 points. And then with 7 minutes to go, they've got a lead on the road against a top 20 team, shaping up to be a potentially very good night for your Pitt Panthers. And then they went into the black hole of death. They made 2 of their final 15 shots. I think 11 out of those 15 were 3-point attempts. None of those fell. And some of that was like jacking up shots at the very end to try to, give Pitt a chance to win. But when it came down, I mean, like they didn't make the shots. And, I think Jalen Lowe was 1 of 7. Ishmael Leggett didn't shoot very well in that final 7 minutes. It was just a total collapse. where as opposed to the slow starts being the big problem against Georgia Tech or Notre Dame or all these other games where they've been down a lot in the first half, this was a game where they were relatively competitive throughout until those final 7 minutes, and then it just fell apart. They could not make a shot to save their life, and Louisville was able to run away with it. It ended up being an 11-point win. I keep saying 11. It was 11, right? For some reason, 79-68. I thought that was the final score, but you get that little voice that's like, no, that's not it. You're saying the wrong thing. I had to double check. But yeah, Louisville ends up getting an 11-point win. I think it was closer than that. Pitt was more competitive than that. Not that Pitt was the better team in this game, and for really any stretch. And I'll get to that in a second because I have something I want to say along those lines. But they were within 3-4 points and felt like they were only 3 or 4 points behind for most of the game. One of the things that really struck me about this game, and we're at this point now, and we've been talking about this for a couple of weeks, of like, it just feels like there's no new analysis to offer on this team because they do the same things. It's the same things that doom them every game. I'm pretty sure they lost the rebounding battle. No, they won the rebounds, actually. They won the rebounds. They were +3 on the rebounds. They committed 11 turnovers. They had a real bad stretch to start the game, but they committed 11 turnovers. They didn't shoot great, 36.5% from the floor, 27% from three. But they were also 12 of 17 from the free throw line. Too many misses there. One of those, at least one, was the front end of a 1-and-1. So you got a couple more points that are sort of left on the table. But the thing that really stood out to me, and I thought about this a few times throughout the game on Saturday night, there was never a point where you felt like Pitt had the better team. And this isn't about, look at their records or look at how they're playing. Even in games when they lose, I'm not going to say, they were the better team in all these games. But it was at least a discussion. There was no discussion to be had on Saturday night. Louisville was clearly better. There was never a point where you looked at the 10 guys on the court and said the best player on the floor right now is wearing blue. There was never a point. The best players on the court at all times on Saturday night were Chucky Hepburn, Terrence Edwards. Those guys were clearly and far and away the best players. And it wasn't really all that close. Louisville looked like a supremely talented team. And that comes through, and you watch how they play, you watch what they do, what actually happens on the court. But then you also things like listening to the announcers, right? There was a point, maybe in the second half, maybe in the first, I think it was in the second half, where the play-by-play guy turned to the color guy, and he's like, what is Pitt doing to keep themselves in this? And there was another point where I just really like the way Pitt's battling right now. Pitt is really fighting in this. These are the things you say about losing teams. These are the things you say about the hapless losers who roll in there, and everybody expects them to be not very good. Everybody expects them to get their doors blown off, and they're keeping it closer than you expected. They're only down 6 at halftime. They're keeping it within a few points through the second half. You don't talk about what is Pitt doing to keep it close if it's two legitimately good teams, or what you perceive to be two legitimately good teams. And over the last 15 games, over the last 2 months, this team has steadily devolved into a team that no one even really thinks of as being a good team anymore. You get the obligatory, Jalen Lowe, you've got to watch out for him. And you have to hear 75,000 times during the game about how you can't let Jalen Lowe go to his left hand. You hear all about how Zach Austin's a 3-and-D guy and Cam Corrin can score. And, Cam Corrin actually had 6 and 7 on Saturday night. That's got to be one of the few times in his career that he's had more rebounds than points. I should probably look that up and double check. But these are the things you say about the losers. You know what I mean? These are the things you say about the hapless team that just, there's a bunch of plucky upstarts. They're really trying out there. You give them credit for really trying. Good for you. And it's just sort of, and it's the latest reminder, but it's just sort of a reminder of how far this team has fallen. I mean, what What a disappointment. I mean, the disappointments continue. And it wasn't necessarily a disappointment that they lost to Louisville, but it's sort of these terms that we're using to think of this team by now. They're like, we're not talking about this team as being as talented as we thought they might be, or as talented as they should be. We're talking about this team as, wow, what a spirited effort. Spirited effort. Well, 2 more regular season games to go. They'll be at NC State on Wednesday night. They wrap up the regular season against Boston College at the Peterson Event Center on Saturday. Then you get into the ACC tournament, and we'll see what happens there. Other news. Pitt got a commitment on Saturday. Football commitment. A 2027 wide receiver from Florida. Jacob Thomas. Why was I going to call him Jacob Turner? Jacob Thomas. Well, now I'm going to look it up again. This is a relatively new commitment. He just committed on Saturday. Guy kind of flew under the radar. Jacob Thomas. There we go. Wide receiver. He says he's about 5'10", 160. He's not a big guy. And he might be a little bit smaller than that 5'10", but he's definitely a playmaker. Claims he ran sub 4.4 at an Ole Miss camp in the 40-yard dash. He's also been timed sub 10.7 in the 100. That's legitimate speed. If you're even in that range, if you're close enough to actually claim that with a straight face, then you have legitimate speed, and that's what Jacob Thomas seems to bring. He averaged more than 22 yards per reception on about 27 catches last season as a sophomore. He's going into his junior season. Pitt was one of a handful of offers that he had when he committed. Pitt was actually the first school to offer him. He got a call from J.J. Laster and Cade Bell over the last week or so, saying that they had talked to the Pitt head coach, obviously to Pat Narduzzi, and he signed off on taking a commitment. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say you take it with a grain of salt, but you're talking about a kid from South Florida who's in the spring of his sophomore year of high school making a commitment. Yeah, like I don't want to be a pessimist about it or cynical, but there's a long time till signing day. Let's say that. And interestingly enough, after Jacob Thomas announced his commitment on Saturday, Auburn came through with an offer, and then Purdue came through with an offer. Prior to that, he had offers from Pitt, and then a handful of G5 programs. I think maybe Bowling Green, Akron, and Georgia State, I think might have been the other offers. Auburn and Purdue have since joined that list. And, yeah, if they can hold on to him, seems like he'll be a pretty good ad. He obviously impressed Cade Bell and J.J. Laster. They liked what they saw out of the speedy Florida playmaker, and now it's a battle. Now you fight to hold on to him. And look, the reality is, guys from, a lot of recruits, the younger they get when they commit, the more you're going to have to battle to hold on to them. He's never even been up here for a visit. Now, what's interesting is one of his teammates, and this name, I still need to see a birth certificate on this one, Santana Carlos, which I wonder if we put that into the database wrong, but we'll keep it for now. Santana Carlos, his teammate who's a year older, who's actually in the 2026 recruiting class, he's a guy who will be a senior in the fall. He's taking an official visit to Pitt over the summer, and Jacob Thomas might come with his teammate Santana Carlos, Santana. He might come along on that visit, or he might take an unofficial visit on his own in the spring or the summer. But, this is a commitment from a guy who has not even visited campus. His recruitment is still obviously ongoing in terms of other schools offering. So, you keep an eye on all of that. But it's not a bad thing to get a commitment from a guy. Because if you do end up holding on to him, then that's a heck of a job recruiting-wise. There's no downside to this. It gets a little bit of positive recruiting publicity for Pitt, so that's always a good thing to have. And, I wasn't going to complain about the fact that the first day we have our new site, Pitt gets a commitment. Can't argue with that. The only thing that would have been better if they'd followed the commitment with a win on the basketball court, so people will be happy about that for at least one night or a handful of days with what would have been a pretty big win, but they obviously couldn't pull that off. The commitment's still stuck, though, and so we'll keep that one in the database for the time being. So it was a busy weekend, and not an altogether good weekend. Obviously, with the headline news being the passing of the young Pitt freshman Mason Alexander. But a lot of stuff happened this weekend. It was a busy weekend, I think for all of us, and certainly with us with making the move and then just trying to hit the ground running with the new site. We appreciate everybody who jumped over on Friday night or Saturday or Sunday. Like I say, go sign up now, get 75% off your first year. That promo is not going to last forever. It's going to be for a limited time. So if you want to get the best Pitt coverage at a massive discount, like $26 a month or $26 a year, excuse me, $26 a month wouldn't be a discount, but $26 a year will be a tremendous discount. 75% off to get the best Pitt coverage and join the best Pitt online community. So if you want to come and be a part of that, go check it out, Panther-Lair.com. You type that into your search bar, into your URL. That's going to take you to our site, and we hope to see you there soon. So thanks for tuning in today. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. That way you don't miss any of our Pitt video content. And otherwise, yeah, have a good rest of your Monday. I hope your weekend went well. And we will talk to you tomorrow on the Morning Pit right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.